Good morning, students. Here I have to tell you about the address written by By-Amiya. It is the video for class 11 students. It is a part of the book Snapshots, second chapter, that you will know all about it. What did happen after she went to meet her old acquaintance of her mother, Mrs. S. That was Mrs. Darling. But when she went to the railway station, when Mrs. Darling denied to recognize her, while she had already recognized her wearing the green well-knitted cardigan whose one of the buttons was pale due to washing, though she did not take notice of it. She had learned that all her cutleries and the crockeries and the silverwares of the table had been taken away by this very cunning woman, who was just an opportunity to carry all the things to her house. How cleverly she took all the things. She took advantage of their miserable conditions of life. When their identity is discovered, they would be jailed, punished, and killed. So they did not speak. Her mother did not speak. These are the crockery items, cups and plates of various designs, so colorful, so attractive, so costly that the narrator's mother had. These are also the kind of crockeries so well maintained, having cups well arranged, tastefully arranged in a house, and these are the spoons, silverwares that were kept in a house so well arranged, and these were the silverwares that were kept on the table, plates, etc., that were so costly that all these things were taken by Mrs. Darling. Here you understand this character as Mrs. Darling, who was so cunning in nature that she took all these things from the narrator's mother's house, just carrying it in all the suitcases and the bags that she could carry. Really, it was amazing. In the train, when this lady, Mrs. Darling, meets the narrator, who is this narrator, at the time she told her about her daughter, and after some time she went to meet her. So her mother had said, "There is her daughter." She beckoned to her. The woman nodded and picked up the suitcase under the coat rack. Coat rack means there was enough place in the coat which could hide. She wore a brown coat and a shapeless hat. "Does she live far away?" the narrator asked her mother, seeing the difficulty she had going out of the house with a heavy case. Means this very lady, when she carried the suitcase so heavy, the narrator asked whether she lived so far. Mother had told, "In Marconi Street, number 46. Remember that. Now she remembers all her lines, and it after the liberation. After the liberation from the war, she was absolutely not interested in all that stored stuff, and naturally she was rather afraid of it. afraid of being confronted with the things that had belonged to her connection, that were hidden away in cupboards and boxes and waiting in vain until they were put back in their places again. She had to endure all these years because they were very nice things. But gradually everything became normal again. Everything became normal again. And after normalcy was restored, she went there. Bread was getting to be a higher color. There was a bed. She could sleep in unthreatened, a room with a view. Everyone was more used to glancing at each day. One day she noticed she was curious about all those positions that she had once. She remembered Mrs. Darling's house. She just recalled that very memory that she lived there. She followed the girl along the passage. An old-fashioned iron Hanukkah candle holder. Hanukkah candle holder. It is the Feast of Lights, a Hebrew festival in December. So she went there. She could see it next to a mirror. She never used it because it was much more cumbersome, heavier than a single candlestick. So she asked the girl whether she would not sit down. She held open the door of the living room and she went inside past her. She stopped, horrified. She was in a room. She knew and did not know. She found herself in the midst of things. She found herself in the midst of the things, and then she did want to see again, but which oppressed her in the strange atmosphere. It was a really very strange atmosphere, unknown atmosphere. Because of the tasteless way everything was arranged, because of the ugly furniture or the ugly smell that hung there. She did not know, but she scarcely dared to look all around her. The girl moved a chair. She sat down and stared at the woolen tablecloth. She knew that this woolen tablecloth had a burnt mark and there was a hole in it. Her mother would be back soon, the girl said. She is Mrs. Darling's daughter, and she asked her that she could wait. And when she waited for her, really it was a moment that she talked with the narrator, and this narrator could know that all the things that once was possessed by her mother had been kept so distastefully. How it looked odd. She wanted to offer her for a cup of tea. As a child, she had always fancied the apple on the pewter table. They used it for everything. Once they even ate off the plates hanging there on the wall. She wanted to so much. It was not anything special there. The narrator had found the burn mark on the tablecloth that I told you. Everything was clear that these are the things that her mother belonged. But she was missing. There she heard the unnatural sound of her voice and she went on. She remembers her mother once asked if she would help her polish the silver. It was very long time ago, and she was probably bored that day because she had to stay at home because she was ill. As she had never asked her before, she asked her which silver she meant, and she replied, surplused. That was the spoons. That was the spoons. She had to speak. Forks and knives, of course, and that was the strange thing. She did not know the cutlery they ate of every day was silver. Means the narrator did not know that how rich she was when her mother survived, and now how poor she had become. The girl laughed again. She bet her. She did not know it is either. She looked intently at her. What they ate with? She asked. She hesitated. She walked to the sideboard and wanted to open a drawer. She would look. It was in there. She jumped up. Everything was there. At the corner of the road, she looked up at the nameplate again. Marconi Street, and it had been at number 46. He had been at number 46. The address was correct. But now she did not want to remember it anymore. She would not go back there because the objects that were linked to her memory with the familiar life of former times instantly lose their value when severed from them. Anyone could see something in her surroundings and she could know all about it. Now she lived in a rented house, rented room where the shades of black out paper still hung along the windows. There was no more than a handful of cutlery fitted in the narrow table drawer. She resolved to forget the address. What was the address? That house number 46 and Marconi Street. She wanted to forget, and all the things she had to forget, that would be the easiest thing. So here it is all about the lesson, and I think if you read the lesson well, you can understand it much better, and you can see all this video in such a way that you will understand everything. Thank you, children. Thank you.